Hello beauties, I have some mail today and I'm really quite excited because by the information they gave me with regards to tracking, it was due the day after I have to jump on a plane and fly interstate, and I wanted to take them with me. So I threw my hands in the air. Gods and goddesses, please hurry this thing along, will you? Came from the UK. Well, to my surprise, it did hurry along, and it's here 3 days before I leave, not 2 days after. Yay! Now, this deck is a special one, and I'm sharing this with you because I'm just a little bit nervous as to how it's going to present itself to me. This is a second-hand deck, and I purchased it through Abe Books. This deck was actually gifted to me years ago. It was published in '88, and I think it would have been 89, if not 90, that my friend gave it to me because she worked for the publishing company and they had a big clean out. And she said, oh, I saw this tarot deck and thought, oh, Leander will like this. And I did. But because I was moving again, I was ever so proud of myself, can I say, that I was having a clear out, because then my philosophy was, honestly, 1 or 2 decks is enough. I like the fact that I can carry my world, so to speak, in my bag, and I loved the fact that I didn't have too many material things. So to repeat, I'm not one of those people that lives so minimalistic, like I have a knife, a fork and a candle, but I just didn't want too many things. And, you know, in share apartments, especially back in those days, you couldn't have too much anyway. So I ended up, I can't believe I'm even saying this, I ended up giving this deck away. I even tried to resell it at the most magnificent metaphysical bookstore that we used to have in Sydney called the Adyar, which is now online only. And I'm sad about that because it had a cafe in it. It had everything from UFOs to religion to philosophy to psychology to tarot, astrology, you name it, it was there. It was a very, very large bookstore. And, you know, they used to have little stools all over the place, and you could sit there for hours and read through books until you made your decision as to what you'd like to buy. But would you believe they wouldn't take my cards? My cards were in absolutely perfect condition. I only used them as a study tool. I only used them for me. And I didn't even have clients in those days. I just loved tarot just for myself. And I was still studying astrology. So I was quite shocked. I mean, literally they were in pristine condition as if they just came off, you know, the print run. And they didn't want them. So in those days, there was nobody in my immediate vicinity that I could hand them over to. Very, very different now. And because I love deck swaps and things like that, I think that is a brilliant, brilliant idea. And so I ended up giving them to a fantastic little, like a little retro store that had lots of different things, from secondhand books to furniture and trinkets and stuff. That deck went along with a lot of other things too, of course. And you know, only recently I was watching a clip on YouTube and one of the ladies said, look, you know, here's the decks that I really love and da-da-da. And she picked up the Elemental Tarot, not the Lo Scarabeo Elemental Tarot. And there is Elemental Tarot for kids. This is the Elemental Tarot. So I found it secondhand on Abe Books. If you decide to do a search for something that's out of print now, make sure you go, if I can be so bold to recommend, go through every page, because when I looked up the Elemental Tarot, I think the first one that came up was on page 3, and all the other entries before it are not Elemental Tarot. What does that mean? So, you know, when you think, if you do a search, think, look, if it's there, it'll come up on the first page. Not only that, I saw this original version of the Elemental Tarot run from 42 American dollars. I've gotten up to 78, $78.89 plus $13 shipping to Australia, or $70.58 plus $21.99 shipping to Australia. There was another one Now, this is the original copy. There are others. Here we are, $75 for the original plus 25 freight. Now, that's American. I have to add a third to that. And I thought, no, not going to do it. I would love it. It's because when I watched that vid, you know, for a moment, I actually forgot I gave it away. And you know how you have your, well, I do. I've got my decks in that writer's table that I painted. I've got another vid if you haven't seen it. It's only a small one. It's not very deep, but it's deep enough for what I have. I don't have a gazillion decks, but I still have a number of them. I'll have to do a count. I can't remember. But if there are any decks that I'm not using, like my Mythic, my original Mythic that's really quite worn, I love it so much I'll never give it away. It's in a box up the back. And I thought my Elemental, for a split second, I'm thinking it's there up the back, as it always used to be, because I haven't used it for a while. So I got all excited, went to pull it out. Oh my Lord, I gave it away. So that's why I decided to go into Aid Books, and I couldn't get over the difference in price. So just a suggestion, if you're looking for anything, and it may be, yeah, especially if it's secondhand, even if you're not, really make sure you go through the pages, because the second print run, it actually has a different cover. And so that's, where does it say here? It doesn't say when it was published, but it's the newer one. So in other words, is the cardstock as good? Who knows? But that's $79.99 plus $50. That's the newer one. I mean, if anything, you're going to pay more for the older one, aren't you? Because it's the original. $80 plus $50. How can they? I don't understand. Here we are. The one that I ordered, right, the original, there's another one here, $128.99 plus $10 delivery. Another one's charging, what did I say, $50 delivery. How do they work this out? Here's another one, the same one that I bought, $146.76 plus $10 delivery. That's $160 US. So for me, that would be almost $200. You know what I paid for mine? $17. I think it was $17.80 US, including freight for the same thing. Sorry, people. So I am thrilled. Oh, there it is again, $147. Come on. $147.93 plus $12. I'm just astounded. But there was, I think it was the page before? I'm sure they said $50 freight. And that's for the new one. $40, no, that's not it. Yeah. No, sorry, that's not it. $50 plus, see, one of them's charging $50 freight. Another one for the same thing is charging $50 for the deck. And $5.89 for the freight. Anyway, I'm raving, I know. I just can't get over the differences, and I'd hate to see any of you... Again, if you find what you're looking for on page 2, you might go through the next 3 pages and think, well, that's it, there's nothing else, because they're offering up other titles. Keep going. Anyway, I was very, very nervous about the state of this because mine was so cheap. The others, I imagine, that's the thing, they're probably in perfect condition. So they all come from various secondhand bookstores that are linked to Aid Books. And so here we are. Okay. You can't see, it's a little dusty, right? It needs a damp cloth. Do I care? No. But just saying, why is this so cheap? Now they did say, oh God, I can't believe I'm holding this in my hand. I haven't had this since, when did I let it go? Probably about 92, the end of 92. Wow. Anyway, I think it's been in the back of the warehouse for some time. Obviously, it's been used. You can see just from pulling now, that's understandable because it's a very, very tight fit. I remember that from mine. So it's bound to happen no matter what. But here it is. If you see something like this, this is the original. I love, oh my God, the book is in perfect condition. They did say on this particular order that, you know, you could find that there are pen or pencil lines in the book as well as highlighted. You know, we understand people do that, but it's as solid as a rock. And I don't know that the second edition is that solid. You know, it might just have more of a bendy, cardboardy. Oh my God. There is not one pen mark in this book. I have just purchased myself the bargain of the century. I'm so thrilled. Oh, because they said, you know how they say good condition, they sort of said, you know, it's the condition's good. It's not perfect. So I expected a little bit of damage in here and I didn't mind at all. So sorry, in case I didn't say, this is by Caroline Smith and John Alstrop, is it? Astrop, sorry. Carolyn Smith and John Astrop. Now, isn't it interesting how you change? This video I'm making for those of you that may be like me, where you like a certain amount of material possessions, but not too many. And once I get to a certain point, I really do have to have it clear out. My ex used to call me Flick It. He was a bit of a hoard, not a hoarder, but he was a collector, sorry. And I don't have any issues with being a collector. But again, we moved into state for his work. We had a whole house full of stuff. You know, and I'm sort of like, do you really want to keep all those old canisters? Yeah. And I had my own version of the clean out too, don't worry. It was fair. I think it was fair. But he thought I was mean. But that's what I did to myself. This is the thing. I felt so proud, as I mentioned earlier, that I was reducing my material possessions, especially those that I deemed unnecessary. However, the world is so different now. These things are becoming collector's items, not just this deck, decks in general, aren't they? And I think that's wonderful because these beautiful decks are getting the recognition they deserve. But what I'm not really keen on is the fact that some places and people are charging extraordinary prices and a little bit too over the top, I think, for certain decks. It's just not right. So let's have a look. So there's a little bit of, you know, that's only because someone's tried to, it's quite tight in this. This is the sort of box that you don't really want to keep the cards in here if you're using them regularly, because it'll get a little annoying, I think. Actually, I guess that's the thing. I think it's from pulling it out that's creased, but it's actually, because it's a little bit older, it's actually quite easy to get in, whereas mine, I remember it being so tight, it was a little bit annoying. Anywho, this is the thing. I thought, I don't mind if the book's a little bit tattered, but the cards, but I took the chance for, let's say, 18 American, inclusive. I can't believe it, seeing these other prices. I'm so excited. So yes, sorry, I'm so excited I'm beginning to ramble. I need to slow down. I'm just trying to say that it's so interesting when things change, that, you know, so many things you may have given away in any arena of life that now become collector's items, and you have to end up paying, you know, 10 times more than you did in the beginning. It's challenging to strike a happy medium between that and collecting too many things and being surrounded by too many things, or at least for me anyway, because I feel like if these possessions are piling up around me, I start feeling like I'm being kind of closed in. So I used to be, I think I told you that, a 2-deck person. So when I got to 5, that includes my oracles. It was just too much. Anyway, not only that, I'll show you just a few cards. This artwork, at the time when I was using more traditional Rider-Waite, and especially the Mythic, that was really my #1 Mythic Tarot. And my teacher was actually taught by Liz Green herself. So, you know, direct lineage. For me, there was just no two ways about it. And then my second diploma, my teacher also used Mythic because it has those astrological associations. And so it's funny, when I saw that video just recently on this deck and something went kaboom, really and truly, I actually physically felt this kind of little burst of energy in my solar plexus. And that's why I was so excited to go and get this off the shelf. I thought, oh my God, that's just reignited my connection to this deck. And to my horror, I remembered that I didn't have it anymore. And at the time, I didn't really get into this artwork so much because I was so engrossed in the more traditional style decks. And now, upon seeing that video, I feel like, wow, I'm really ready to re-embrace this deck. Because I'm not saying I didn't embrace it, I did. But after a period of time, I felt my time was over. So I'm just sort of trying to make the point that if you are having a clean out, please don't rush. And maybe if you have a little bit of storage area, you could take it off your immediate shelf and then put it aside in a storeroom or something somewhere before you make your final decision. Because if it wasn't for this cheap one, there's no way I would have paid those extraordinary prices for this deck. And I look forward to starting this deck again. So we've got the major, the minor, the meaning of the elements, the meaning of the numbers, the meaning of the family, because I think that's the court cards. They've got mother, father, daughter, son. Then we go into astrology, the gods, elemental names, fire cards, earth cards, air cards, water cards, reading the cards, quick key to the cards, and then key to the symbols on the cards. Let's just have a quick look here. It's getting really dark here. I hope this comes up okay. And when I look at it now, to be honest, I think, how did I let that go? Seriously? Anyway, there's no point in raving on about it. I've got it again. Isn't this wonderful that people have secondhand copies and they're good enough to put it up there? And how easy it is now for international orders. Okay, so I'll go through and just give you a few examples in case you may want to look into this deck further. Look, as an example, see, strength is health. And in here, they've got strength is your truth. The hermit, as an example, is called the shaman, and that is your will. The devil is your desire. The tower is your survival. The star, your hope. The fool, your potential. The magician, your abilities. Oh, the high priestess, which is the virgin, your receptivity. The judgment card is your forgiveness. That's interesting. What else can I share? The world card is your self-knowledge. That's cool. What am I? Oh, I love it. These are the symbols that are included on the cards. Fantastic. Who published this? Is that Viking? Yeah, Viking. I don't know who they are, but they did a mighty fine job. Published by the Penguin Group. So first published in Great Britain in 1988. So again, I hope it's inspired you to do a bit of digging if there's something that you're looking for. Don't necessarily take the very first... there we go, I'll just show you that, sorry. A mother and a daughter, just so you can see. You don't necessarily need to take the very first deck that you come across. Have a little dig around. Good on you, Aid Books. Thank you. And I'm really thrilled. Oh, speaking of secondhand, my other parcel. I got 2 in one day. This one was also due in days from now. And it just came. I'm so pleased. This is a secondhand book. Tarot Shadow Work, Using the Dark Symbols to Heal by Christine Jett. I thought this would be quite interesting. So you can see it's got a little bit of dog ear stuff here. However, inside, what have we got here? It's stamped October 2000. Oh, it was part of a library. And let's have a look. Just checking for like scribble marks and... No. Oh, wow. It's clear. I think this is going to be an interesting journey. I'm so pleased that inside the book, there's places where, you know, people could have been tempted to write notes, etc. Let's just have a look at some of the chapters, just so you are aware in case you want to look into it. I bought this secondhand. I don't think there are a lot of these books around, and or they were too expensive to get to Australia, like, you know, buying them new. I can't remember. Because even this wasn't, I think it was about 30 for me to get it here. I can't remember. Something like that, about $30. And I thought, well, that's okay, including freight, but under normal circumstances, yeah, I wouldn't kind of go that far. But I know, I really have to think about that. I'm sorry. I can't remember if, where's my little book? No, it's not here. I can't remember if there aren't many left at all, or I bought this secondhand copy because obviously it was cheaper for me to purchase this than by the time I buy it new, the freight, the exchange rate, it was too expensive. So have a look. Part 1, The Shadow Knows. Chapters are Nightfall, Descent into Darkness, The Darkest Hour, and In the Shadow of the Star. Part 2, Into the Light, which is about your shadow's power, embracing your shadow, compassion, the inner light, Star of Hope, and Dawn. Part 3 is called Star Guides. That's Shadows of Tarot. You Are Not Alone, and recommended reading. Ooh-wee. So as an example, what do we have here? Star of Discovery. Oh, I think this is, like, as an example, this is a spread. But of course, you're doing it from a shadow perspective. That's fine. And then when you get to one of the later chapters, wow. In the area of compassion, the inner light, some of the chapters are: compassion is not pity, forgive or forget it, the power of choice, pick a pain, any pain. That'll be interesting. Resentment means to re-feel. This is so fascinating. Healing childhood, and so on. But what I was alluding to is when we get to this section here, and this is when we get lots of information about the cards themselves from a shadow perspective. So the Magician's shadow, as an example: not applying your energy and efforts in the right direction, being scattered, lacking focus and not focusing on the real issue, pessimism, using trickery or deceit to accomplish your goals, indirectness, abusing power for selfish gain, starting many projects and not being able to complete them due to a lack of motivation. That's really interesting in itself. At the worst, the shadow of the Magician is dishonest about motives and can be destructive in relationships. See, that's really, sorry, that's food for thought, because it's not something that would just necessarily pop to your conscious mind when you're thinking about the Magician, especially for those who may be reading reversals. Maybe you could bring that into it, but I want to do it specifically for shadow work. You know, it's not about reversals so much. Then it goes into shadow gifts of the Magician. That's interesting. In other words, creating order out of chaos, or being able to prioritize and make a choice, using action on your own behalf rather than simply wishing for change or success, the ability to plan and carry out those plans, discovering the creator within. So as you can see, it continues on throughout the whole. Is this just the major? Hello, hello, hello. I didn't think about that. Okay, I think it is, just so you know, which is fine. I mean, it's shadow work, but I think that's all we are dealing with in this book in case you go to buy it. What's this? Just before I leave you in, oh my gosh, it's 30 minutes. I need to hurry. What shadow work can do and cannot do. I created this method of tarot shadow work as a result of my own losses. It's a concrete way to ease emotional pain and to realize compassion through the understanding that most of us are souls in pain. A house divided against itself cannot stand. That's a quote. By believing parts of ourselves to be bad, we cannot realize our full potential. We will be fragmented and separated off from ourselves. The good qualities we associate with I, me, and myself will be at war with the bad. Will be at war with the bad qualities we associate with not me. Unresolved conflicts and unexpressed emotions, which is the shadow, divide us against ourselves. If left unattended, the house, our sense of self, is structurally weakened and we can be easily toppled. Shadow work asks you to toil on all levels, spiritual, emotional, psychological, and mental. It's the combined effort that produces results. The goal of shadow work is integration, not rejection of the shadow. Understanding and accepting the shadow will give you wisdom, choice, freedom, power, compassion, and hope. Wow. So then she goes, how to use tarot shadow work. A note about rituals, and then the descent into darkness, and that's when the real fun begins. So from what I can see, because this is the first time I've opened the book, it works with major arcana.